Good afternoon everyone. Maupay nga kulop hatun nga tanan. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Welcome to Hisgut Kalibungan, an online discussion series on vital environmental issues and concerns in Eastern Visayas. Today, environmental conservation is definitely an urgent priority concern. Problems like the continued depletion of our natural resources, global warming, unabated environmental pollution and degradation are just some of the serious issues that affect each and every one of us and the future generations. If left unattended, this planet, which we call our home, will sooner or later be unable to provide and sustain our basic human needs. Hisgut Kalibungan, which in English means environmental discussion, is an online project that aims to contribute to the sustained effort of saving the world from irreversible ecological destruction. More specifically, Hisgut Kalibungan is a project that seeks to discuss and analyze urgent environmental issues and concerns in Eastern Visayas. By promoting and strengthening cooperation and collaboration between and among entities, Hisgut Kalibungan seeks to assist in the formulation of appropriate policy initiatives that will further advance the purposes and goals of environmental conservation in Eastern Visayas. This afternoon's episode is entitled Huruhisgutay number 5, Mineral Resources Management and Mining in Eastern Visayas. Friends, most of us are aware that the mineral resources of our country are important in the production of a wide range of products, equipment, and machineries. The process of producing them have created distinct industries that help run our country's national economy. Unfortunately, the birth of these distinct industries have also spawned the emergence of various types of problems and challenges that threaten human survival. Thus, in this episode, the members of our discussion panel will underscore and bring to the surface issues and concerns that are related to the management of the mineral resources and mining in Eastern Visayas. Among others, they will describe and analyze the state of mineral resources management and mining in the region. With the end in view of formulating and recommending vital policy initiatives related to the responsible mining of our region's mineral resources, the members of this episode's panel will provide us with a science-based analysis of what it takes to reap the benefits of our country's mineral resources. At this point, allow us to introduce to all of you today the distinguished members of this episode's discussion forum. Our first panel member is the Chief of the Clearance and Permitting Division of the Environmental Management Bureau, Regional Office Number 8. She is a BS Biology graduate of UPV Tacloban College and holds a master's degree in management from the Asian Development Foundation College, Tacloban City. Friends, please welcome Mrs. Maribel B. Munsayak. Our next panel member is an anti-extractive mining advocate who works as an associate professor and head of the Gender Resource Center of the Visayas State University, Baybay City. She teaches graduate courses in development sociology and land administration management. Her research interests include gender in development issues, extractives governance, climate impact, and resilience. She obtained her bachelor's degree in psychology from the Ateneo de Manila University and her master's degree in sociology from the University of San Carlos, Cebu City. She is currently enrolled in the PhD in Sociology program of the Ateneo de Manila University. Friends, we are pleased to present to you Professor Maria Aurora Teresita Tabada. Our lead discussant for this episode is a highly experienced mining engineer by profession who earned his bachelor and master's degree in mining engineering from the Cebu Institute of Technology. His wide range of experiences as mining engineer, mining operations officer, and mineral district officer in various areas of the Visayas and beyond has made him one of the leading figures in the protection of the mineral resources of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to present to you the Regional Director of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, Regional Office Number 8, Director Leo Van Huguan.
I will start with the geologic map of Eastern Visayas, followed by the mineral potential map of Eastern Visayas, and then the geohazard map of our region, the mining tenements of Eastern Visayas, and the environmental measures whenever there are mining operations within the region. Our next slide will show us the geologic map of Eastern Visayas. No, the next slide. I had this first presentation because I would like to bring to attention of that why do we have mining in the first place in Eastern Visayas. And I would like to present the geologic map of Eastern Visayas as they're illustrated. The different colors in the map represent the different kinds of rocks that we have. From the upper left square, which is gray in color, is the oldest rocks that we have, which is the Cretaceous, pre-Cretaceous rocks found in Babatngon, which are composed of schist. And these are more than 145 million years ago, when this was formed. There follows again descriptions of other rock forms or lithologic units in the different areas of Eastern Visayas. We have intrusive rocks, we have volcanic rocks, we have alluvium, and then sedimentary rocks, and we also have to a certain degree quantities of limestone. If we take a look on the islands that we have, which are three, we have Biliran Islands. This is more of volcanic in origin. We have Leyte Island, which is greatly influenced by our Philippine Rift Zone. We have a segment of the Philippine Fault passing through Leyte Island. And if some of us will remember the Insaongon landslide, it is on those areas where the Philippine Fault passes through, and you have your significantly, shall we say, rocks that have been affected by the fault lines, and these are readily fragmented. We have Samar Islands, which are described as a result of gradual vertical movements, diastrophisms, we call it in geology, which is actually mountain building. And this has been influenced by the presence of the Philippine Trench, which is on the eastern side, offshore, on the Pacific. Due to its origin being volcanic in nature, has given us a significant mineral associated with its origin, and that is sulfur in that particular province. On the other hand, if I take a look at our next island, which is Leyte, as we were saying earlier, this was influenced by the Philippine Rift Zone. The Philippine Fault Line passes through this area. This has also certain previous volcanic activities. We have Kabalian volcano in southern Leyte, which of course is not anymore active. But these previous geologic activities has resulted in certain mineralization which we have recognized to be present, and these are in the form of copper and gold, which are near the fault system. If we take note, these are in the municipalities of Sugod, Libagon, Silago, Hinunangan, Liluan, and San Ricardo in southern Leyte. We also take note of a significant mineralization transported on its present location now in the form of magnetite sand. These are ores for or sources for iron, and this is present from the municipality of Palo going to the south to Abuyog in Leyte. Samar being formed by vertical movements of the estrophism. This has interacted with the rocks that are present, and the prospect for metallic minerals are present in Samar Island. We have copper and gold, and likewise we also have nickel and chromite, which is due to a lateritic soil, which is again the lateritic soil being a product of weathering. We can see this, we can notice this particular uh, mineralization in Humonhon and Malikani Island, all of which are in G1, Eastern Visayas. The bauxite minerals within Samar Island. And historically, on February 4, 1977, then President Ferdinand E. Marcos signed Proclamation number 1615, establishing the Samar Bauxite Mineral Reservation, where all the bauxite deposits and bauxite-bearing lands in the provinces of Northern Samar, Samar, and Eastern Samar were covered by the subject Proclamation 1615. This is in 8 parcels, parcels A to parcel H, and the total area is 208,979 hectares. Of course, we take note that in the succeeding years, in 2003, there was Presidential Proclamation number 442 issued on August of 2003, declaring Samar Island Forest Reserve as a protected area under the category of a natural park, and this is now known as the Samar Island Natural Park, covering 333,300 hectares. What is bauxite, by the way? Bauxite is an ore wherein you can get aluminum after its processing. It is a byproduct of weathering of the rocks that are present in the areas. Proceeding further, and again in relation to the Samar Bauxite Mineral Reservation, the parcel labeled as Parcel A is found in Lawang, Northern Samar. Parcel B is in Matuginaw, San Jose de Buan, Gandara, San George, Yabong. Parcel C, still part of San Jose de Buan, Maslog, and Ipapad of Eastern Samar. Parcel D is in Mochong and Paranas of Samar Province. Parcel E is in Hinabangan, Calbiga, Pinabacdao, and Basay of Samar. And E also includes Maydulong, which is in Eastern Samar. And then we have Parcel F, Lawaan, Eastern Samar, Marabot, and Basay in Samar. Parcel G is Balangkayan, Borongan, and Maydulong is in Eastern Samar. Parcel H is Mercedes, Salcedo, and Giwan, Eastern Samar. Proceeding further, our mineral potential in the region. And we take note again of our mineral potential map of Eastern Visayas, going back again to our different kinds of rock forms, which are what we call as host rocks for the different minerals that we can find in those areas. We have, as mentioned earlier, bauxite, we have chromite, we have copper, we have gold, iron, limestone, some form of manganese, nickel, of course pyrite, and then sulfur. Those are the significant minerals that we have in the region. As going further, just would like to share the Samar mineral bauxite reservation. So at least we can see where these parcels are located. The next slide will show you parcel A, and that is the description. That's an area of 7,000 hectares. We go to parcel B, which has an area of 36,383 hectares. Parcel C of 21,000 hectares. Parcel D of 14,000 hectares. Parcel E of 46,000 hectares. And then we have parcel D of almost 34,000 hectares. Parcel F of some 6,700 hectares. And finally, we have the 8th parcel, parcel G, comprising of 43,600 plus hectares. This gives us, that's a total of 208,900 plus hectares for the mineral reservation in Samar Island. Proceeding further, while we do have the mineral resources in the region, it is also part of the mandate of MGB to map the geohazard susceptibilities of the different areas in the region so that the information can be used by the other agencies, the local government units, and even academia on its relation to disaster risk management and preparation, of course, for such calamities that may happen whenever there are episodes of heavy rains. The geohazard map generated by MGP is all based on rain-induced hazards. Minerals are owned by the state, whether it is found in the surface, under the ground, or in public or private lands. The Constitution provides for that, and Republic Act 7942, the Philippine Mining Act of 1995, likewise reiterates that policy. And this being the case, it is now the responsibility of the state to promote the rational exploration, development, and utilization, and also conservation of mineral resources. Also found in our Mining Act. And it is also, the policy also states that while there is national wealth that we enhance, this enhancement and national growth will effectively likewise also safeguard the environment and protect the rights of affected communities. Now, proceeding further, right now, the word responsible mining is often stated, and we'd like to state the following, that responsible mining is under these following terms. Mining per se is only a temporary land use, and thereafter the land is brought to another form of a productive state. Mining, to be considered responsible under the context of responsible mining, should address the economic, environmental, and the social aspects of the operations. The three parameters are likewise being stated under sustainable development. The activities of mining operations should be guided by current best practices in environmental management, and likewise in mining operations. And mining should lead to other wealth generating opportunities. So proceeding further, and since government, all minerals are owned by the state, how is this being disposed or managed to be operated by other groups or individuals or corporations? We refer to the permits or contracts as tenements, and we have the mineral production sharing agreement, and the other form is a co-production sharing agreement, a joint venture agreement. All the three are under mineral agreement, but the most commonly used or being applied for is the mineral production sharing agreement scheme. We likewise have a financial or technical assistance agreement. This is allows a bigger area, and it allows a bigger capitalization being infused by foreign investors. In a mineral agreement, compared to a financial or technical assistance agreement, the capitalization on a mineral agreement is a 60-40 sharing. 60% should be Filipino, and only 40% can be given for investments to some foreign nationals. On the other hand, on the financial or technical assistance agreement, we have almost, I'm not saying 100%, but almost 100% foreign investors are allowed to infuse investment for this particular form of agreement. We also have exploration permits. By the way, I failed to mention, I'd like to add, all these agreements, mineral agreement or the financial technical assistance agreement, are for a period of 25 years. We go to exploration permit. This is a permit solely for exploration, as the name states, and it's only for activities that are looking for that are undertaken to look for where the minerals are. The extraction and disposal of minerals under an exploration permit is not allowed. We also have a temporary exploration permit, which is only for a period of 1 year, and a special mines permit in cases where the mineral production sharing agreement is ready for, shall we say, operation, and the special mines permit may be issued for a period of only 1 year, most especially so when there are certain additional explo works that are yet to be undertaken in some areas of the agreement that is approved. We have mineral processing permits, which are for processing of minerals. These are issued to those that do not have any form of tenement and would only like to process the minerals. Then we have the industrial sand and gravel permits issued by our office. May I likewise state that the sand and gravel permits under the devolution of under the local government code of 1991 has been devolved to the local government units, and thus it's the provincial governor or the mayor of an independent and highly urbanized city, as in the likes of Tacloban and Ormoc City. The local executives can issue this particular industrial sand and gravel permits or commercial permits or quarry permits. Moving further, we also have these other permits to be issued. The special minerals extraction permit, the government seabed quarry permit, the government dredging permit, the special exploration permit, and small-scale mining permit in mineral reservations. We also call this an ore transport permit, just to transport minerals that have been extracted and being transported or transferred to another location where you have your processing facility or where you have your buyer. Then these are what I was saying, which have been devolved to the local government units. We can see that there are quarry permits, sand and gravel permits, gratuitous permits, and guano permits. In addition to those, the LGUs can also issue gemstone gathering permits. The gemstone material are not found in all provinces. I still have to see a gemstone material here classified under such term as a gemstone, but in my previous stint in Region 6, there were areas where we have gemstones in the provinces of Antique and some areas of Iloilo. There is pebble picking permits, small-scale mining permits which are outside mineral reservations, small-scale mining contracts outside the mineral reservations, and again, the ore transport permits. There are 18 that have been approved. There are 8 which are under exploration period. There are 3 that have been operating, but I'd like to update that there are only 2 out of the 3, since 1 of the 3 has been placed under suspension. Under care and maintenance, meaning these had operated before, have suspended their operations and are still not back into operations. They are subject to care and maintenance. Then we have classified other tenements under MPSAs as non-moving, since they have not progressed to any form of development in the site, such as development into preparation for production. Of course, we have applications remaining for MPSAs. We have 37. We have exploration permits, that there are 3, and application for exploration permits of 41. Moving forward, before we have special mines permit of 1. As earlier stated, the industrial sand and gravel permits, 31, broken down into Leyte, Southern Leyte-Samar, and Eastern Samar. We still have applications for industrial sand and gravel permits, and we have small-scale mining contracts of 4. Before proceeding further, may I just state that there are also permits issued by the local government units, issued by both, in the case of Leyte, This will include permits issued by the governor, the noble mayor of Ormoc City, and likewise of Tacloban City. There are 45 of them. In Southern Leyte, there are 4. At the moment, there is none in Biliran. In Tacloban City, there are 4. In Samar, none at the moment. In Eastern Samar, we have 10. In Northern Samar, we have 9. We have a separate number for Ormoc City here. May I rectify what I stated? The 45 for Leyte is only for the province. There's a separate number for Tacloban City. And for Ormoc City, we have 5. May I likewise state that in the case of those applications that are with NGB, we still implement our use it or lose it policy. And we also call it a cleansing process. If an application cannot, shall we say, complete all the requirements, then it is subject to due process. The corresponding notices are given the applicant, after which, after 3 notices, and they have not been able to comply with all that is being required, these applications are being rejected. Mining applications for large scale and applications also for industrial sand and gravel permits. For our operating mines, I have stated that there are 3 which are operating. We have Stonebuilt Mining Development Corporation. The operator is MacArthur Iron Projects Corporation. The location, of course, is in MacArthur, Leyte. The tenement area is 7,411, but the approved declaration of mining project feasibility is only something like 3,000 hectares. The exploration permit that we have issued is only 3. This is, of course, a permit is on, okay. Let me go to Stonebuilt, then let me go to another operating mine. Chromite King Incorporated, an PSA located in the island of Pumunhon, and the tenement area has 1,500 hectares. The operator is Tech Iron Resources Incorporated. The commodity here is chromite concentrate. Email is a holder of a special mines permit. The corporation is ready to be issued a mineral production sharing agreement, but incidentally, there was this policy where the mineral agreements were put on hold until such time that there is a new fiscal regime. Then the excise tax for minerals was only 2%. It has now increased to 4% under the train law. And recently there was an executive order signed by the Honorable President, Executive Order 130, stating or allowing and, shall we say, provisions in Executive Order 79 of then President Aquino was revised or amended, and it now allows for the issuance of mineral agreements for those applications that are, of course, qualified to have a mineral production sharing agreement. May I proceed further? The other mineral production sharing agreement that was then operating but is at the present suspended is Nickel Ace incorporated, still in the island of Kumunhon, and the commodity is for nickel. We have mentioned that we have small-scale mining contracts. Small-scale mining contracts are being issued on areas that have been declared as binahang bayan. And in this particular case, there are 4 small-scale mining contracts holders. These are associations of WASO small-scale mining producers, Strong K WASO Miners Association. Then we have Vegan, or for short, Vilabin. Vegan, Laurel, Binalay Small-Scale Mining Association, and the Binalay Small-Scale Mining Producers Association. These small-scale mining associations are within declared binahang bayan areas that are extracting chromite. The mode of operation of these areas are more on manual as required under a binahang bayan law. I just would like to share briefly the production and sales for the last 5 years, 2015 to 2020. This is in terms of the annual occupation fees paid by the mineral production sharing agreement holders, where you have 75 pesos per hectare as annual occupation fee. We have the extraction fees for sand and gravel, and this differs on different provinces. For every cubic meter that is being extracted, there is a corresponding extraction fee that is going to be paid to the province. And this is being, shall we say, shared or distributed to the municipal government, the province, and the barangay. The sharing scheme is a 30-30-40% scheme. 30% goes to the province, 30% to the municipality, and of course, 40% to the barangay. On excise taxes, based on our records, we had for the past 5 years, there has been payment of excise taxes, although it differs from year to year. We have a total of all payments from annual occupation fee, extraction fee, excise taxes from calendar year 2015 of something like 17.8 million. This has graduated and increased to 36 million in 2019 and 33 million, almost 34 million in 2020. I have not included 2021 as this is still an ongoing year. The Philippine Mining Act of 1995 likewise provides significant measures for environmental protection. And this is found in the Mining Act. For a mining operation, there is a corresponding Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, the EPEP for short. It's as stated there, but simply the EPEP is a translation of the Environmental Compliance Certificate of all its terms and conditions after its evaluation of the impacts of a mining operations project, its translation into a work program where you have a timeline and the cost. So the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, if you have a project that has a 3-year development and utilization work program, the EPEP will cover the whole of its 3 years and it will have an annual EPEP. If it's a 5-year mining project, in the case of industrial sand and gravel permits, Then it has a 5-year environmental and protection enhancement program, and an annual uh, program is also being provided to monitor the compliance of the operations in terms of the EPP and also with the ECC. Proceeding further, I'd like to bring everyone to the Mine Rehabilitation Fund. To cover the cost of the mining operations, the Philippine Mining Act, in its provision, which answered the commitment, which shall answer the commitment of every mining operator, provides and mandates that a mining operation should have a mine rehabilitation fund. This fund should be able to answer all the costs that is being so stated, stipulated in the EPEP and the annual EPEP. By the way, I failed to mention that all mining projects will require an environmental compliance certificate. If there are any project that cannot secure, I would say, an environmental compliance certificate, then that project cannot be allowed to go into an operation stage. Proceeding further, under the mine, can we go back then? Under the Mine Rehabilitation Fund, which we call the MRF, we have two funds, which is the Monitoring Trust Fund. How is this being used? When a monitoring of a mining operation is made, the EPP or the annual EPEP is its guidelines in checking the environmental programs that have to be implemented, the activities that have to be complied and done, and the cost of monitoring this is being provided by the concerned company. So, the Monitoring Trust Fund is in the tune of 150,000, but it is replenishable. Thus, when you have an MMT going on for several months or regularly after every quarter, and the MTF of 150,000 is about to be exhausted, the mining company is required to replenish the fund so that the MMT will not be hampered in its monitoring of the of the mining operations. Proceeding further, the fund is being lodged or deposited in a government bank, the likes of Land Bank, BBP, and all other government banks. It is being managed by the MRFC. We have the Mine Rehabilitation Fund, and the C is for a committee, which we have a regional committee, and any expense related to that passes through the MRFC and is being reviewed that it is in accordance with the approved plan for the year or for the duration of the project. As I was saying earlier, replenishment, as may be required, may be done quarterly to correspond to the expenses incurred by the monitoring team. Then we have the Rehabilitation Trust Fund. The good secretary, our Honorable Secretary Roy Simato, has been espousing on strict progressive rehabilitation. Rehabilitation after the end of the mine is still going to be done. But in present mining operations where there are already areas that are not, or shall we say, that had been mined, and as the mine progress, the rehabilitation of this should not wait for the end of mine life. Instead, it is so provided that this has to be done progressively. So as we progress on the mining area, as it moves forward, the rehabilitation for these particular areas on those that had been mined out are going to be made, and this is answered by the provision of a rehabilitation cash fund. We may note that in the rehabilitation cash fund, there is an amount of 5 million. There is a work program being submitted for a progressive rehabilitation. And if the progressive rehabilitation being made goes over 5 million, then there is again a required replenishment to be made by the mining company as it still undertakes its operations. Again, the RCF is deposited as a trust fund in a government bank, and again this goes through the management of the fund, goes through the MRFC. Withdrawals and lodging of the fund, the MRFC is always being informed. I just would like to point out that this is in Section 171 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations of the Philippine Mining Act, which is Department Administrative Order 2010-21. And it states here of the requirements when it has to be submitted for the annual EPEP. And most importantly, we take note that the annual EPEP is a portion of the whole mother EPEP that has been previously approved. So it could be 5, could be a 3-year EPEP, and the like. It shall include but not limited to exploration, development, utilization, rehabilitation, regeneration, revegetation, and reforestation of mineralized areas. And likewise, considering slope stabilization, acid mine drainage control, tailings areas, watershed development. These are the activities that are included in the EPEP and where the funds are being used. The CMCIR states that this is the Certificate of Environmental Management and Community Relations record of a company. And again, this track record is based on how it performs when in relation to its EPEP, which we have already described. The FMRDP, this is the Final Mine Rehabilitation Program, or the Final Mine Rehabilitation and Development Program. But aside from that, of course, we have the progressive rehab being done. What are the other things that has to be considered? The mining company is likewise required of a safety and health program. And the SDNP here stated, can you have the final, the next one, please? Can you go? Not too much. Next one. Wait. After the annual EPEP, can you have that? Okay, the next one. Okay, that's the one. That's what I was explaining. Aside from the CMCIR, the EPEP, the FMRDP, the Safety and Health Program, is our social development management program. Again, as mandated in the Mining Act, it is a mining company is required. Ano, where na- The mining company is required to have a program for the development of the host community. The SDMP will cover activities or programs for education, health, infrastructure, um, development of geosciences, and other similar
Nawala.
activities as stated in the Mining Act. I am down to about two more. The final mine rehabilitation fund, as I was explaining earlier, this is section 187B. When the end of life is reached, but this fund is being required to be lodged not at the end of the mine life, but rather it is being lodged earlier. So 5 years before a mine ends its mine life, this fund is ready to be used in the final mine rehabilitation and decommissioning program. The next slide is the safety and health program, as stated earlier. Every year, they are required of a safety and health program. And this is part of what is being monitored. And lastly, the social development and management program. It states that it shall be prepared in consultation and partnership with the host and neighboring communities, which should be always the case. A host community does not have to receive only a social development program. They have to participate in coming up with what they need. Would it be more on livelihood, or would it be more on health, on education, infrastructure? This is going to be discussed by the proponent, the mining operator, to the stakeholder or the host community. This is based on the 1.5% of the operating cost, and 75% of the 1.5 is for the SDMP, 10% for the development of mining and technology and geosciences, and 15% is for IEC, for communications and information dissemination. This will round up my presentation on where we are. Thank you very much for the attention.
The presentation was very comprehensive, and for me, it was like mining 101. And I'm glad, no, because I needed to be refreshed actually. But I think it's also it's very helpful for taking stock at what we have here in the region. Yeah, that's from the perspective of development in terms of extraction, in terms of utilization of the resources that are available in the region. I would have also wanted, I guess, to hear would be in relation to these are other resources that are available. Perhaps it would be good also to look at what are the challenges that we have had in the utilization of these resources. Because in the first place, where there would be a segment that would really ask about should mining actually be done in the region. I think if you look at the history of Region 8, Eastern Visayas, we have always been extraction point, whether it was logging, primarily for logging. In the 18th century, when Manila was open to the world market, abaca. Abaca was taken from the hinterlands of Samar and brought to Europe. So even in the 1800s, that was already the role of the region, providing all these materials. And then now, with the presentation of Argubuan, we see why there is really interest, no, in mining, because we have the resources that are needed. But I still would want to pose that question really. Why? One, I think we need to go back to experiences. No, actually in my notes I wrote history of broken promises, negative experiences. No, with mining companies and even national government agencies from the perspective of the communities. So that's one. Secondly, and I think this is the more important concern, although MGB does work on hazard mapping and have produced the hazard maps that are I think, very important for the LGU. But I think we need to further the issue in terms of framing this, because we have framed it in the light of sustainable development. We say that mining is a key lever for development in Eastern Visayas, or one of the levers in Eastern Visayas. If you look at the data, even on the national level, it only contributes what? 0.6% of the what do you call this? Our GDP, gross domestic product, and even in terms of labor, 0.5%, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be more or less the range here also in the region, no? But I think so if we say sustainable development, and we argue that, for the sake of arguing, that there is such a thing as sustainable mining, but the terms we use here is responsible mining, then we should look at what are the possible risks that we will confront when we do responsible mining. And I think the difficulty here is that we have not really, or maybe we have not really been discussing the issue of mining, sustainable or otherwise, in the context of climate change as a risk. And I think we have not really highlighted, although there are, I think of them as fake news, that really climate change will exacerbate the risks that communities hosting mining will experience. And it's not, there is data around the world about it. So I think that is one, we need to really look at it. Why? Because then, if communities and if local government units decide to approve, the conduct of mining in their areas, I think if they have to be aware, they have to be prepared that there's this reality, climate is a risk now, and that they have to be prepared. It's not just we need to look at disaster risk management, and that is one of the risks that we confront. And so that the fact that we really are not discussing, or we're not framing this issue in that context, I think for me is something to be concerned about, because we experience the worst, the strongest typhoon, in the whole world. It landed here, and it landed in the areas. So it seems that we have forgotten this impact. So I think that's one that I would like to really push, that we look at it in relation to risk, climate risk, and moving towards resilience, bouncing forward, not back to where we were, so that we are able to achieve the sustainable development that we want to achieve. Now, the assumption there is that mining will be able to contribute to that. And then the other one, the director knows this, my pet peeve. I think it's so easy to look at large-scale metallic mining. So you can see it right away. You can see right away the difference when you have when you have this mountain and then it was excavated, the mountain is gone, no? But we forget that in at least in Eastern Visayas and in the Visayas region for what the past 3-4 years, the discussion has always been sand and gravel, sand mining, no, which is really a very big issue of concern because in 2017 NIA already sounded the alarm. No? The data in 2017 was that 33.97% of the irrigation systems that NIA had, the total service area was 248,572. Yeah, and then we had area, the percentage of the area affected was 33.97. So 1/3 of your irrigation system, the systems of NIA was affected by sand and gravel mining. And if you look at the data, also this is a data of a study done by Gargantes, which actually showed that the percentage, the losses from Typhoon Haiyan was in Eastern Visayas 994. The production output was 994,972. The losses was 34,221. And then there were the losses from Haiyan were less than the losses from the areas affected by sand and gravel extraction in 2017. So, so I think in Eastern Visayas, we really need to look at sand and gravel. We need to look at the governance of sand and gravel because especially if the communities that are along the rivers and the ones in the coastal areas, with climate change and you lose your mangrove area, so you don't have any buffer anymore. The mga slow onset events like rising sea levels. These are things which you not see. You just experience them, and so I think this should be a matter of concern. So I think what I really would want also is that there would be really partnership, because the way it is now is that there has to be partnership between the different sectors, government, communities, civil society, national government agencies, the academe need to partner together because we have a common concern, which is climate change. And it's not just, we tend to look at it in terms of the physical damage. I'd like to bring it in terms of the vulnerabilities. Who are the sectors that are affected? So who are the vulnerable sectors that are affected? These are coastal communities, usually dependent on fishing, fisheries. So, and then how does it impact on the households, men and women in the household? So I think we need to look at the inequalities that result. Who benefits from your sand and gravel production? Who bears the costs of the extraction and the damage that extraction can do? The community. How much does the local government earn actually? We were looking at data from one local government unit, a municipality. It had 26 permits. And then how much was it earning? From I forgot the figures already, 2017. But it's not even enough if there were damages. What Director was mentioning about the funds that are supposed to be deposited. And these are mostly small scale. So these are issued by the province. So I think the dynamics there, there's a lot that we need to look at. So I'm not saying we forego the large scale, we don't look at large scale mining. What I'm saying is that we need to frame the issue of mining in relating the risk and resilience framework. And secondly, we need to look at sand and gravel mining now because before it's too late. Food security. If your irrigation systems are gone, what will you do with your rice areas? And for us, rice is life. Diba? We cannot rice. There has to be rice always on the table. So what will happen if these areas are destroyed because of sand and gravel?
The observation is very, very valid. In the large-scale mining operations, the funds that are required, even before you can go into operations, are required to be put into a bank, so that we are ensured that environmental measures and other activities and programs are going to be implemented. And sand and gravel operations is also part of mining on a lesser scale, but it's still part of mining. And we have, personally, on my experience before, we believe that the local government issued permits would likewise be subject also to what the big boys, if I may call it, large mining companies, are being required. And what are those? These are the provision of funds and likewise programs and activities that will ensure that there are environmental protection, that there is still community social development, so that the livelihood of the host community is not affected, so that alleviation of their status can be realized, and of course the rehabilitation that will be required. Unfortunately, when all this devolution was made, somewhere along the way, this was not really made or emphasized that LGUs sure is issuing the permits, you have to require them this. Okay. But there is still hope, Tess. Why? Because our work, Tess, when I say our, because we are part of the technical working group. Stephen, there is a technical working group where we are members. Incidentally, I am the chairman, and we are looking at this concern, which I said is very, very valid. In our presentation of the resolution of the technical working group, a resolution was sent to RPMC, and on that presentation, the RPMC is going to elevate that to, if I recall right, to RDC. What is going to be elevated to RDC or to NEDA during a conference of the different national agencies, and of course the private sector representatives? The resolution was for all local government units that are issuing sand and gravel and quarry permits to likewise have a similar environmental protection activities and the corresponding fund, like what I was saying, like what the big boys are being required. If that would be realized, and I'm praying it would be realized, we were able to realize that in Region 6. It did not take us overnight, but we have that. If that can be realized in Region 8, that will answer some but not all. But we can still improve from that. Some of those concerns of really having significant programs that is being required, being approved, that it is appropriate so that whenever they have this sand and gravel extraction, the mining, this will not redound into a adverse impact to the environment. There are going to be impacts, but this can be duly mitigated if funds and programs are being put in place. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, Tess, that what we had endorsed, and of course they said they're going to endorse it to NEDA or the RDC, is going to be realized in the coming, well, hopefully in this year. And of course, Tess, I refer to, you know, when you mentioned rice, immediately what came to my mind is, of course, the magnetite mining in Wakator, and that is a rice land. But the law says, and there is a program that we are really looking into, monitoring it monthly, there has to be progressive rehabilitation, because after the magnetite has been taken out, which is from 8 to 10% of the material, the areas that had been affected is going to be rehabilitated and brought back again to production, particularly for rice. Uh, NIA and the Department of Agriculture and MGB has already sat down, did its technical conference with the mining company, and DA and NIA has likewise made their has presented their concerns to the mining company, and all these concerns we will try to not only try but we will address, so that all these rice or palay producing lands that had been affected by the extraction of magnetite will be successfully brought again to a productive state. That is the end result, and that is saying that mining is temporary land use, and we bring it back again to production of the palay that we need. We cannot live on magnetite alone, Tess. I know that. We really need palay production. Yes,
Food
Tess.
security is really a primary consideration, and I think if we want to ensure resilient communities, resilient provinces, that should really be taken into consideration. So, I mean, how will, if you allow mining in your territory, how will it impact on food security? And the other dimension is water security. I'm familiar with the MacArthur because we were there from the start. And I remember when I was on field work, and we were trying to open yung puso, the water outside. Tamang-tama, when we were opening up, you could hear the sound of the machine. So there was no drop of water out of that the faucet. I guess because the water, what do you call this, the machines were operating, and so the water couldn't go up. So that is an issue. Water is an issue, I think, in any mining area, because it strongly competes with with other users in the area. And I think so. Those are things. Those are very important considerations. That food security. I think in the long term, we really should look at it. I used to tell DA that when Nikua started in 2010, I remember Leyte was number 6 among the provinces in terms of production, rice production. After that, when the mining was allowed, I don't remember seeing it in any of the, going back to number 6 or going higher. So for me, that's a very clear indicator, because the one explanation would really be you have lesser areas that you use to, but you have lesser areas to produce the rice. Where did the rice fields go? So they went to mining. I mean, that was existing land uses at the time, no, very common at the time when mining started in the area. So these are really concerns. And then when you had the fish kill in 2013, and as far as I know, they have not been paid. That was 1.7 million. The fish pens and that were destroyed at the time. And so it created also a lot of divisions within the municipality, among the communities, the barangays. So these are things that from experience, and of course because we should learn from our experience, diba? We need to learn from our experiences, given that we have other risks and considerations, that were not there before, like climate. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Huruhisgutay, for that very extensive and comprehensive presentation on the state of the mineral resources and mining development projects in the region. As we all know, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau is the primary governmental arm responsible for the sustainable exploration, development, utilization, and conservation of all mineral resources in public and private lands within the territory and exclusive economic zone of the Republic of the Philippines. Director Huruhisgutay has presented the 4 large-scale mineral resources development projects under 4 mining industries in the region. He has also presented the large-scale industrial sand and gravel projects in the region. As we have noted, the region is quite rich in mineral resources. Like we have gold, we have silver, we have deposits of chromite, uranium, bronze, nickel, clay, coal, limestone, pyrite, and of course, the sand and gravel. I just would like to toss these questions to RD Huruhisgutay for the information of the viewership, who are also members of the society tasked to monitor our mining projects in the region. Please explain to the public, Director, the different multi-sectoral groups. Sino-sino ang mga members who are undertaking and monitoring our mining projects? And for the second one, so what are the specific roles and responsibilities of the local government particularly and the non-government organizations in the monitoring and in the purpose of regulating these mine projects, specifically the large-scale mining development projects?
Thank you for the question. I was expecting that Maribel will be doing some comments on related to operations and the use of the requirement of the ECC. Okay, the multi-partite monitoring team or the multi-sectoral monitoring teams is composed, and EMB has been a member of that team. Incidentally, at the time, during the stint of the late Secretary Gina Lopez, she issued an administrative order where EMB was not anymore included in the MMT, but rather the tenor was EMB has to conduct a separate monitoring cell. But for me, together with EMB, ever since, the multi-partite monitoring team has been doing its job. I mean, if we go back to the EPEP and the annual EPEP, which, as I was saying, it is the translation of the ECC's terms and conditions into actual costs and period where it is not so much defined in the ECC. Those are just terms and conditions. It is what the MMT, which is comprising of MGB, the local government unit, a non-government organization, EMB then, of course, the permit or the proponent is present. It is the guideline that the MMT uses in checking whenever they monitor if all these requirements or programs and activities were done during these required timelines. So that's the role of the multi-sectoral teams. Uh, we had been proposing to the higher management to bring back again EMB to the MMT, since when we are going out, the MMT is going out and checking on the compliances of the proponent. There are certain instances where conditions of the ECC are being reviewed and being checked if this is implemented. And when this is the case, the multi-party team would be glad or would be much comfortable if the one that is assessing the compliance, if ever, or non-compliance to the ECC conditions is an EMB technical personnel, not the MMT members who are not much familiar with the ECC's, shall we say, basis for the terms and conditions. But we do just check it, and if there is a need, just refer it to EMB on our ongoing MMTs. But we would like them to be, again, partners in doing the monitoring. I hope an amendment to that particular administrative order will be made by the Office of the Secretary in the central office sooner, so we can have again that very good working relationship between MGB and EMB in monitoring mining operations.
One of the areas that we have noted as opportunities actually for partnership with the MGB and with the MD, really in the area of selection of the CSO representatives to the PMRB, the Provincial Mining Regulatory Board, and the mining monitoring teams, because we have noted that the selection has been very limited oftentimes to those that are known to the committee members, which unfortunately may not include environmental, other environmental groups. So I think there is really a need to have a transparent selection guides so that you are able to choose from really real is not a good term, but from, for example, civil society organizations that have actual experiences on the ground and can articulate the concerns of the communities that are affected by mining. I think that's one there, and so yeah, that's an area that we would have wanted to be involved, making up, identifying process, selection guidelines, and then testing, how, because then if we are able to have that system in place, then that, I think that is a trust building measure where communities can start, we can start getting them to have a little more, to believe a little more in the agencies that are dealing with it, because unfortunately that is the reality on the ground, the perception really that many of our national government agencies, in this case MGB and EMB, are really speaking for the mining companies, the big sun and gravel permittees at the expense of the community. And we know that is not 100% true, no? So it's important that we create opportunities to build trust so that we can, work together. I think it's really a challenge for us here in Region 8 because um, in the more than 10 years I've been doing extractive work. That has always been a perception, and well, we hope that things will get better, especially because there are so many concerns that need
Yeah.
to be addressed. And sayang kasi director is retiring already next week. But I would have wanted to take him up on the offer, not to bring people to Region 6. And, because it's very important to those who have had their own experiences and had that journey and learn from them and see how we can, apply it in our own context. So, yun. There's one other item before I forget because the director mentioned this already. The EITI, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. The Philippines, we were the first country to have been acknowledged as doing satisfactory progress under the standard. This is an international global standard for looking at determining whether the extractive companies are paying what they're supposed to pay and government is receiving what it's supposed to see and declaring this and utilization of this what do you call this earnings, this income for the development of the communities that are affected by these different what do you call this mining projects. So it's really a transparency and accountability using the financial aspects. And so one of the things that I think that we really should pursue is really why not demand if LGUs decide to approve, assuming that everything is above board, everything is done according to the process, no one is coerced. If LGUs decide to do that, then maybe we should set a standard and say why we would require our companies to participate in the EITI. And so, they have this standard now where they have to report and all the minimum standards that are required, reporting that are required by EITI Philippines. So I think that would be one. And the other one, which I really hope to see, is can we not what do you call it? Teach our communities, for example, how to do monitoring, how to do monitoring, simple water monitoring. What should they watch out for if there's a mining company operating in their area? What do they need to look for? Let's say water, based on the ECC, they have, based on the map. So, the transparency in terms of the information that the local community should have access to, because now it's not done. At least I'm familiar with the sand and gravel, they go to the barangay, they say here, 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 but they don't produce any documents, they don't show any maps, which, if you look at the law, requires them actually to do that. But there's no there's monitoring, but there's really no strict implementation, and so they get away with it. And communities do not realize that, in fact, the areas that are going to be, where the extraction will be done, will really have a direct impact on the rice fields or whatever, or the households that are along the river bank. So that's one, the data, the information that they need. And secondly, the training need, basic training lang, what to look out for. I think if communities are empowered to do that, then PMD will not have a problem monitoring, MGB will not have a problem following it, because they themselves, they are the ones concerned, they are the ones affected. If anything happens to them, they are the ones who, they will likely report if they think there is somebody who will listen to the report. But even then, just teaching, just, training them will hopefully empower the communities and really do their share and really be able to say, well, they're doing this. I think they're not doing what they're supposed to do, or okay because they're doing what they're supposed to do. Time that we educate our community, they cannot do that. No? It will always be outsiders and we always say, ano pakialam ng DSU? Ano naman ng DSU din ha? Di mo taga-dire. But unfortunately, we also have the capacity to be able to assist the community. So if communities need help, it's part of our responsibility. Diba? Especially us, we are state universities. Our salaries are paid for by taxes. So we should really be able to, return back to the community. Knowledge that they can use for their, for their own good. I think that's how the work that we need to do. Especially in our region, we're what, 8 to the bottom? Third to the bottom or second to the bottom among the poorest regions in the country. But we're so rich. I mean, we're rich with natural resources, but why are we so poor? And then when all this mining will disappear, what will happen to the community? Will they be better off? No? Will they really be able to continue with what they were used to when the mining, whether it's large scale metallic, non-metallic, or sand and gravel, will they be able to continue that? No, so we need to. If you think of the commissioning of the mine, even when they start application, then we, especially us in civil society and academia, should, help communities to think in terms of the end. What do you want to see once mining is done in this country, in this particular area? How do you foresee yourself? So I think that's really part of the whole conversation that needs to be done for ensuring that we're able to really achieve sustainable development, because that's the end that hopefully we want to get done for our part of the world, our small space.
And just take off from what Tess was discussing. Keeping the community informed prior to issuance of any mining permit, be it a small scale level sand and gravel operation, or be it a on the large scale mining operation. There is a need for the community to really know and expect what is going to happen, what are the impacts, what are the mitigating measures. These are being done, and again, if that is a large scale mining company, they have people to do it. Our problem is, as what Tess was saying, in the smaller level operations, it's small, but they are quite numerous. And these are the permits issued by the local government units. It's quite sad to say that not all the provincial mining regulatory boards are operating in the sense that we have regular meetings. There are some. I do not want to mention the provinces, but there are. I might just mention siguro how many. There are at least 2 that we have not had any PMRB meeting. Magre-retire na ako in a few days more. Never kami nag-meeting. And we had been, keeping in touch na dapat sana mag-meeting. Maybe so, especially na we had this pandemic and there are certain, border controls. Isa pa yan that could happen strangely. Personally, I always go to a personal face-to-face discussion and meeting for as long as all the health protocols are being observed. Even as far as Northern Samar, I go for a meeting for PMRBs. There really is a need for the strict implementation of the operation of a PMRB. And I think the operation of a PMRB, the if I may use the term, the pressure to the LGU to have it operational, I do not see that it is within MGB nor DNR. I think that would be within the DILG side because these are under their shall we say, jurisdiction. If a PMRB with all, and likewise, as Tess was saying, we have to get membership and those that are qualified. It's not just a politically endorsed member that, oh, siya nang gawin nating NGO. The process of choosing an NGO is that they meet among themselves, all the environmental NGOs, meet among themselves, choose one who will represent them in the PMRB or the CMRB for that matter, the City Mining Regulatory Board. In my length of years in government service, Stephen, I had a chance of, going through that when we were on that process of choosing. So when I came over here, nandun na yan, members. Okay, it's functioning. Na may meeting naman. Now, we can still improve on that. And the PMRB in the provincial level, prior to its endorsement of a permit for the governor to sign, can likewise give policy, shall we say, policy proposals to the local government, even on environmental matters. The reason why we were able to attain that level where the local government issued permits were having all these environmental programs and fund is that this was discussed in the PMRB. And they have seen, and during these discussions, in a discussion among members of the PMRB, and likewise with the sectoral, shall we say, the proponents' representative, they were all amenable. As I said, it's not an overnight thing, but after some time, for as long as you make everything transparent and you have established trust, they were all ready for that. And slowly, we were able to have one province establish it as a model. And when they saw it and saw it's working, there you are. It followed, it followed, it followed. And finally, we have all 6 provinces. 6 provinces where you have your own mine rehabilitation fund committee, provincial, where you have your own environmental programs per permit holder. And I just ran out of time in my stint here. I was looking forward. But we have started somewhere. When I was talking to Ormoc, they were open to implementing certain certain programs tests like EPEP, the SDFP, but you really have to, again, make this. How are we going to do this? They were on that track, but they still need more. But with our endorsement to the RPMC and for NEDA and an ADC resolution saying that all LGUs have to observe this, then probably that is one policy that we can, push. And with the ILG supporting us, that will be saying local governments issuing permits, take note that you need to require all the permit holders of these requirements. If a permit holder or applicant cannot be able to satisfy these requirements, then he or she has no business going into the mining operations. hindi siya maging responsable if he or she cannot afford it. Wala siyang pera to answer for the environmental measures. Wala, hindi ka pwede. You're not qualified. You will not get any permit. We should screen out people who are really capable financially and have commitment in implementing this particular program. So I think isa yan sa mga policy directions that we, since nag-start na yan, we can, maybe we can have somebody, hey, pwede mo bang ma-push yan further so we can have that one. Coming from that. And likewise, if I may add, the enforcement of, again, the required terms and conditions in the permit because of a lack of, as mentioned earlier, partnership between the barangay and maybe the LGU, the municipality or the province. They have to have a partnership. So the barangay can be part of a monitoring arm that says, when a truck passes by, sandali, do you have your delivery receipt? If you do not have a delivery receipt, that means your transportation of material is not legal. Or, kung permit holder ka, may palusot ka. Kasi a delivery receipt will ensure that you have paid the extraction fees. These are things that slowly we can build on. And then, not only in enforcement, but likewise again, on our environmental, taking care of the environment where these operations are ongoing. I hope we can have a push for that policy.
I think one of the fundamentals really should be that the provinces in the region come to a clear position on on extraction, on mining and food security. Now, what policies, the policies that need to be in place so that they are very clear on the priorities, how they are going to prioritize between food security, for example, and allowing mining in this area. So I think that's wonderful. I think that's the fundamental there, because for as long as that's not clear, everything the discussion will always be in terms of who is applying, diba? It will be reduced to that unless there is really a policy and say mining will only be allowed in this area. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? Because these areas are yon. And then from there, so on food security is clear. The policy on on allowing extraction is clear. So I think that's one really that I think is important, because we have seen how the tendency is to pass it on to the lowest level barangay. This is our, I pointed this out a few years back when in 2010 that how come if these areas, for example, our mountain here, Mount Pangasugan, this supposed to be I think there was an application for a protected area, but something happened along the way. But clearly, studies have already been done here showing your biodiversity and all these things that will make it and that will be a consideration for it to become a protected area, So if you know that there is such things, why will you still allow mining to be done in this particular area? Of course, there was I think the the certification or whatever that needs to be done. But my point is, assuming, for example, that all, or for example, in Humunhon, di ba? Biodiversity area on the western side or the one side, but the other side is not a protected area, part of NIPAS. Why will you have an island where one side is protected and the other is not protected? And an island is a very small area. So, so these kinds of issues, I think, those are mga fundamentals that need to be laid in place so that we can really move forward. And the other one is, I mentioned already before, and I agree with RD, is that participate in the AITI, especially for the metallic, the large scale. Those are part of Chamber of Mines. I think it's important at least set a minimum standard. If we want the mining to go on, I think we should allow them to go on based on our own standards. I mean international standards, but we implement here in the region. And the whole idea is to keep us safe, to make sure that we don't add to the risk. So that one. And then the third one would really be policy on how do you get communities to be involved in the I mean, the law says you consult, you have the scoping meetings, etc. But how that needs to be revised, because it has been revised already, diba? That instead of 3 out of 3, now it's only 2 out of 3. You need a certification, that there's no opposition to the mining. Why don't you bring it back to 3? And why don't you make sure that how do you prepare communities if you really want to do mining in the area? Then those are safeguards that need to be implemented.
I agree to the observation of text that determining areas where it will not affect adversely the environment and some other, if it's declared as an IPAS, then definitely the law says you cannot go in. Now, identifying areas that have already been determined as mineralized is there is already information. So those are areas that can be planned by the local government, that these are potential areas for mineral development. Although we have to accept the fact that not all the mineralized areas have been found. Some are still subject to be explored. And in the case of Eastern Visayas, that's where information is still lacking. Some areas are not yet explored. But we cannot just go into exploration because it is a costly activity. And LGB, for some time now, has stopped its exploration of mineral exploration activities. In our recent conferences, there is a plan to bring it back. So government itself has information where the potential minerals are. With this, prior to really allowing a proponent to go into actual mining operations, the region or the particular province in its direction should really see to it that there has to be maximum advantage to the province, to the community, to everyone that will be affected whenever these operations are going to come in. And we have to really ensure that if this is going to be affected, what is really our potential for bringing it back into another form of productive land use?
From a personal viewpoint, I am of the firm belief that in order to improve the conservation of these mineral resources and management of mining industries in the region, I have noted here 5 considerations which must be pursued to the fullest extent. The first is, and the most important, is to ensure the rehabilitation of mining sites. You know, after umalis na itong mga tapos na ang project, tapos na na-mine out ang areas, laging iniiwan, di ba? The mine sites are at the risk of being left unproductive, unusable by landowners, and in some cases, almost entirely inhospitable to plant and animal life. Walang gamit na ang land. Ensuring, however, that a comprehensive rehabilitation of the mining sites shall guarantee that mined lands can become productive again or speed up the land's natural recovery process. The second one is, it is necessary for mining industries in the region and for the government as well to adopt and further develop technologies, the modern technologies for extracting mineral resources, which will eliminate or minimize the negative impacts or effects of mining processes. Therefore, yung modern mineral exploration has been driven largely by technologies. Dapat meron tayo yan. Third is the switch. Yung mag-shift tayo to a more eco-friendly equipment, yung mga gamit natin to pag-mine. So, like battery-driven mining equipment is often powerful to replace the diesel-driven options. And generally, the mining industry is already moving in the direction of electric equipment, with more and more mining manufacturers offering eco-friendly alternatives. Fourth is to shut down illegal mining. This is a very hard task which government and the mining sector alone cannot do it. So the government law enforcement machineries shall and must collaborate with multi-sectors of the society in preventing and apprehending illegal, unregulated mining operations. Hindi lang responsibility namin sa government at may-ari ng mga mining industries. It is our responsibility as citizens of this region to police our mining sites. This will also help ensure that all mining is bound by the same environmental standards and ensure accountability, meaning the level and degree of implementation have a decisive impact in the quest to completely eradicate illegal mining. The fifth is the importance of research, wherein I know yung ating mga kasamahan dito are into it, especially BSU, investment and development for more reusable mining waste technologies. There may be at least 1 or 2 ways, commonly known as reused mining waste, on or off site, and adding more of these technologies shall ensure that no mining waste will ever be left behind when mining operations cease, often causing severe environmental damage. And we all know that. Yung iniiwan ng mga mining firms, companies, yung mining tailings, yun pala ang nagpo-cause ng malaking environmental degradation.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our 5th episode entitled Huruhisgutay number 5, Mineral Resources Management and Mining in Eastern Visayas. We trust that given this discussion forum, you have gained important insights as well as acquired a renewed understanding about this afternoon's episode. Based on the discussion forum, please allow us to present to you Mr. John de la Cruz, University Research Associate of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center, who shall recapitulate the highlights of this online discussion forum.
Today's episode focuses on the state and management of mineral resources and the issues confronting the mining activities in Eastern Visayas. More specifically, Engineer Huguan talked about the mineral resources in Region 8 and how these resources are being utilized, conserved, managed, and developed in a sustainable manner. Based on the presentation, the region is rich in bauxite, which is a primary source of aluminum. Other significant minerals found in Eastern Visayas include copper, gold, and chromite. In 2020, extractive and exploration activities have contributed about 33 million pesos to the region's economy. Both the extraction and exploration activities in Eastern Visayas have several environmental and social impacts, and some of which can be considered detrimental to the immediate environment and communities. For example, irresponsible mining activities have resulted to loss in productivity and income among rice farmers and fish cultivators in MacArthur, Leyte in 2017. In another case, unsustainable mining practices have led to human-induced habitat destruction in Homonhon Island, which is said to be the last stronghold of the critically endangered Philippine cockatoo in Region 8. Indeed, humanity has become largely dependent on minerals, mineral products, and on the economic activities attached to mining. Through mining, humanity was able to extract minerals and process mineral products that are vital for medicine, food production, communication, fuel production, vehicle manufacture, building and construction, and energy production and transmission, among others. However, it is important to weigh the social opportunity costs and the ecological costs against the net benefits, including social, economic, and environmental benefits, before any mining project is permitted by the concerned line government unit or the concerned line government agency. The adverse effects of destructive mining can be avoided, minimized, or compensated for by promoting and implementing responsible mining. To amplify efforts to support local responsible mining in Region 8 and beyond, the following suggestions are put forward based on the discussion forum. First is to frame the management and conservation of mineral resources within the context of climate resiliency. The adverse effects of climate change will exacerbate the immediate communities and ecosystems' risks and vulnerabilities to natural hazards and human-induced hazards caused by destructive mining. Thus, it is important to view the management and development of mineral resources and mining from the perspective of climate change adaptation and disaster risk and vulnerability reduction, among others. This strategy will help build climate resilient communities and ecosystems near and on mining areas. Second is to enhance public participation in the mining application process. Mining applicants are required to conduct public consultation as part of the application for an environmental compliance certificate. As such, local communities should be made fully aware of the purpose or purposes and potential impacts to the immediate community and environment of proposed or ongoing mining projects. During this stage, it is important for communities to be fully informed of their capacity to allow or to oppose any proposed mining project in their areas, provided that they find such project unfavorable to their living conditions and or harmful to the environment. Third is to review existing governance mechanisms and policies, as well as the performance of completed or ongoing mining projects to develop appropriate responsible mining regulatory measures. This approach will help local managers and decision makers formulate new or reinforce existing mineral resource use, conservation, and management policies. For example, LGUs may encourage or require sand and gravel mining applicants to participate in the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives, or EITI, which is a global standard for good governance of oil, gas, and mineral resources, like the Environmental Compliance Certificate, and licensed grantors must consider the results of the benefit cost analysis of the environmental impact assessment as guide in granting mining permits. Inputs can also be generated from the results from the monitoring of mining projects. Next is to ensure comprehensive and progressive rehabilitation of mined-out areas. Concerned government agencies and LGUs must ensure that the mining contractors will implement the terms and conditions stipulated in the permit, especially the conduct of progressive rehabilitation in mining areas and the full implementation of the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, or the EPEP. Fifth is to adopt eco-friendly mining technologies and best practices in environmental management and mining operations. Mining tenement grantors may develop policies that will encourage mining applicants and contractors to employ best practices in responsible mining and use equipment and technologies that will yield minimal harmful effects to the socio-economy and well-being of the locals and the health of the environment as well. Another is to explore partnerships with concerned organizations in monitoring the operations of and the detrimental impacts of mining projects. Considering the limited fiscal resources and manpower of the monitoring committee, this approach will help the concerned monitoring organizations like the Mines and Geosciences Bureau and the local government units efficiently monitor the performance of each mining project, and most importantly, in monitoring the implementation of the EPEP. Then, build the environmental protection and monitoring capacity of local communities in mining areas. Not only that, it will enhance public participation, this approach will likewise help the locals gain additional knowledge and skills on environmental monitoring, especially those parameters that will indicate the health of the ecosystems and environment in relation to the mining activities in the area. Moreover, this approach will also help empower the locals to organize initiatives that will help protect their environment from the harmful effects of mining. And finally, strict implementation of existing laws and policies regarding mineral resource management, utilization, and conservation. This recommendation highlights the importance of a fully functioning provincial or city mining regulatory board which oversees the management, conservation, and use of mineral resources for sustainable development, and the enforcement of existing laws and policies regarding mineral resources planning and development. A properly functioning and efficient mining board likewise ensures the monitoring of mining projects and the implementation of the EPEP and other terms and conditions in the mining permit or license.
Let me give my conclusion and parting words. Sustainable development and conservation of our mineral resources is a major challenge. Global world. It should be addressed not only by the government and to the mining companies, but all the people, particularly the people of science associated with mining, and many other institutions and organizations. So the complexity of this problem points to the need for a continuous exchange of experience in the field of knowledge, methods, technologies, and other solutions. Thus among I have mentioned are only a few of the many ways we can improve the conservation of mineral resources and management of mining in our region, but certainly those are not catch-all solution, and we all know that. As we continue to strive for sustainable development, I am optimistic that in the near future, the region shall take great strides in economic development, but equally unrelenting towards conservation of mineral resources and uncompromising in the management of mining industries.
I think these kinds of fora are really very helpful in creating better understanding of these kinds of issues. And I think it would be good to continue these kinds of discussions, and hopefully we can have more different sectors. It's done good if we have a representative from the mining community, let's say the provincial government, You know, that the different, if we're looking at mining, we need to look at all the different levels of governance because they're all implicated in this, in mining and resource conservation. And I think, you know, the challenge ahead of us is, and the work ahead of us is you know, is great. Um, it's not insurmountable. I would want to believe. I think we can, what we really need to do is get together, work together, and yeah, work together, ensure, and in the end, I think the bottom line is really we want good governance for our resources, and so we also need to have good leaders who will be able to, uh, you know, guide and provide the necessary inputs, the necessary, you know, ideas that will really help us, you know, use our resources wisely, benefit from it, but never at the expense of communities, never at the expense of people. So I think we need really to choose our leaders to be able to get that done.
I'm always glad to interact and share information on our mineral resources, on what are our policies. It's not, the implementation is not all that perfect, but with continued coordination and, shall I say, partnerships with all the other agencies, with all the other non-government agencies, we can do something. And I did remember, I failed to mention kanina, uh, there is a term that we go green in terms of energy usage, especially so in vehicles. So we start using not anymore fossil fuels but batteries, which we can charge from solar. Uh, and however, a recent observation now is that the price of copper is going to be increasing because of this going greener direction. Uh, and it's like saying, oh, we're still going to mine what we need. These are for the batteries. And the other one is, as part of our interaction and partnerships with other groups, this time with the academe, I was able to uh, have a partnership with Philippine Science High School test.
Ah,
Philippine Science High School, when I had an IEC last year, early last year, they mentioned of doing a research for their upper class students on on minerals, as their equipment is an atomic emission spectrometer.
okay.
What is that? You have, you prepare your samples, and you have the certain solutions. Dissolve the samples. You place those solutions for a particular sample. Will show you what you have, and this particular equipment is quite sensitive. It is more sensitive than what I have been familiar with before, which is the AAS, the Atomic Absorption Spectrometer. So, Humunhon, being a lateritic environment in terms of mineralization, source of nickel, and in other areas of which we have, where we have nickel, in Palawan, in Surigao, several years back, there was a study made by a foreign group that they were able to find uh, rare earth elements in lateritic environment. And when I was discussing with Philsai, I said, "Oh, this is going to be a good partnership. We can be providing the area for research for the rare earth elements, and of course, Philsai has the equipment, which unfortunately, sadly, MGP doesn't have. But this partnership, if ever something comes up and we find a significant volume of rare earth elements, certain policy changes are going to be made. Alam mo, Stephen, when we send our nickel to China man, Japan, whatever, it's all there. Nickel, and of course there is a nickel, there is iron component that is being bought by the end user. It's only those that we see. I do not know if there are freebies that we are shipping outside, because we do not know, and we do not have the equipment if these rare earth elements are there. Hopefully, with a tripartite agreement which we are forging, MGB8 and Philsai, this time an academe, can come up with something that will increase the value of a particular shipment going out if we have these rare earth elements significant enough that will warrant that they be taxed and increase in price as well. There is also one thing more, perhaps in a policy direction that our government can make. Region 8 has been a recipient long before, in the early years, of PASAR. What was the purpose of PASAR? It is a smelting plant. It was supposed to be the beginning of our industrialization. When we are going to be, processing our copper concentrate and later on producing the end products. Sadly, this was not fully realized. And sadly, because I think we are still, our frame of mind in the governance is that whenever there is a new administration, something comes up. There is no continuance of important projects. So I hope that
Exactly.
policy will really be forged that we will not ship out most of our raw materials, our concentrate outside, and then buy back the finished products. That's too sad for us.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it here? I hope it happens in the nearest future. So if that happens, we have so much that we can increase our, if I would say, GDP on mineral resources contribution. Why not? And likewise, also have more economic activities when we have these processing plants and other incidental mineral resource products done in our country. I hope so that in my lifetime, I can still see that one. And it's been a interesting interaction with this with your program,
Mhm.
and I'm happy that I was still able to participate. So thank you again.
Friends, we hope that this fifth episode has deepened and broadened our awareness and understanding of mineral resources management and mining in Eastern Visayas. We would like to remind everyone that Hisgut Kalibungan may be viewed on the Facebook page of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center, as well as the official Facebook page of UP Visayas Tacloban College. Thank you very much for being part of this meaningful online presentation. We look forward to having all of you again in future Hisgut Kalibungan online events of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center of UPV Tacloban College. Mao pay akulup, haaton nga tanan.